Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro rolling out hour number 3. By the way, coming up at the bottom of the hour, Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports, the latest on sports pop culture. But, I always love talking to local performers, and we had some of them in studio yesterday. And the guy we have on with us right now, he is one of the best ventriloquists in the world. I'm a big fan of his show, which has been at the Mirage for a while now. Stand-up comic, what an impressionist this guy is. And his show, A Very Terry Christmas 2, the sequel runs through December. The great one himself, Terry Fator, joining us on the line. Terry, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for taking time to talk to me about this. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. So we've talked about, by the way, you do a fantastic show, and we're going to talk a little bit about the show that runs through December. I want to start with Donald Trump, if that's okay, because we talked about this on
Absolutely.
the show a few weeks ago. So you do an amazing Donald Trump impersonation, and you have this Donald Trump puppet that you added into your show. And then all of a sudden, it's taken away from your show, and we hear two different stories about, well, did somebody at the property tell you that it was too political to take it down? So clear the air for us. What exactly happened here?
Yes. No, no one from the Mirage told me to take the puppet show or even asked me to take the Donald Trump puppet out. I have a team at the Mirage that works, that has an office. I have the Terry Fator offices at the Mirage. And my team came to me and said, you had said early on you didn't want to do politics, and it's starting to feel a little political. And what had happened was when I created the Donald Trump puppet, it was before he had just announced that he was going to run. I mean, I had the guy in a month after he announced he was going to run. I had no idea he was going to win for the presidency. And then when he became president, it was like we had a bunch of jokes written about what he was going to do after he didn't win the presidency. And so once he won, then we just started putting jokes in about that. And it had gotten to a point where when I brought the puppet on stage, obviously the Trump supporters went crazy. And I myself am a Trump supporter, so I was never mean, which is why I think the Trump supporters loved it, was that I was not mean with the and I could see people immediately stiffen up and get almost angry about it. And so I was like, when my team that works at the Mirage, they don't work for the Mirage, they work for me. And when they asked me, they said, what do you think? You think it's time? And I said, yeah, it is time. I've been kind of noticing it too. And I don't want to be political at all. I don't want to take a side. I will never use my show to push one political opinion.
Sure, and I don't think anybody's ever accused you of that. But isn't it sad? Because here you are, you're an extremely talented guy. You're very funny. And me personally, I don't care whether it's Barack Obama or Donald Trump. The bottom line is you're funny. It's about entertaining people. As a comedian, isn't it sad to an extent that people take things so personal that it has to get to this point? Because I got to be honest with you. If I show up to see Terry Fator, I want to see the Trump guy, and I'm not a Trump supporter, but I want to see it because you're so good at what you do.
Well, thank you. And that was kind of the point was. And I think actually the majority of people are just like you and I, which, I tend to lean more. I'm more in a centrist, but I lean right from center. I'm not a far right person by any means. I have friends who are lean left. Most far left people won't be friends with me because I'm not a far leftist. It's weird how that they just don't want anything to do with anyone who's not 100% on board with their
that's ridiculous
political opinion.
Yeah, that's insane.
Is ridiculous. And so I just got to it really had gotten so incendiary that I was like, and don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be doing stuff online. And then once his presidency is over, hopefully in 5 years, just to let you know I am a supporter of his. Then I'll bring him back and then we can have fun with it again, because I really don't think just the very sight of it is going to enrage people when he's no longer president. But it's kind of the same way, though, with the far right people. Obama enraged them, and I was never one of those. I was like, guys, come on. He's only got 8 years tops. That's it. So there's no reason for you to get all upset over the fact that this guy is president, because in 8 years, in 4 to 8 years, it's all going to be over for him, and somebody else is going to be president.
True.
And that's how I look at it. I just look at politics are so temporary And my job is to make people laugh.
Of
and
course.
have fun. And I'm still going to be doing. I actually got a Bernie Sanders puppet.
Oh, I love
and
it.
I'm going to be doing Bernie and Donald are going to have their own vaudeville type show, and they're going to be like Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets.
I hate to do this, and if this is unfair, you can let me know because we're on the radio and you're on a phone, and it probably won't sound as good as if it's in person. But can you give me like a 10-second sample if Bernie Sanders had a conversation with Donald Trump? And if it's too much for you, if you can't do it, I totally understand, but you are so good at what you do. Like a 10 or 20-second Bernie Sanders Donald Trump conversation. If that's
So it would be something like where Donald Trump would be on one side and Bernie would be on the other, and Donald Trump would say, "Anything you can make, I can make better. Anything you can make, I'll make it better than you." And then Bernie Sanders would say, "Anything you can make, I can take more. Anything you can," something like that, where he's going to be taking what Donald's making. Exactly, and that's really what it is. It's just funny. It's going to be funny stuff where we kind of have fun with their characters.
I love it. That's genius, Terry. Thank you for doing that. By the way, I got to ask you, when you were a kid growing up, take me back to when you're in high school. Like, were you like the class clown? Did you impersonate people, and was it always a joy for you to make people laugh? What were you like when you were a kid?
Oh, I was voted class clown every single year of my schooling. I mean, I was that kid that was a cut up. I did get sent to the principal's office. Usually, though, interestingly, I tended to be teachers' pet. Mostly because I was so funny, but I was also respectful. I was never disrespectful. So I would make people laugh, and occasionally I would there was one lady that absolutely hated me. I'll never forget her. Miss Hallmark hated me because I don't know what it was, but I just really I was a burr under her saddle. And she sent me to the principal's office all the time because I would be cracking jokes and oh man, she was not a nice
I love
person.
it.
She did not like me, but that was the only teacher. Every other one really liked me because I was very funny. And the funny thing is, I got bullied, but I learned early on that humor can really defuse a situation. When you take something personally, it can escalate the situation.
You're
it's going
right.
to make a bully but if you can make a bully laugh, you've suddenly got them on your side. And so I found self-deprecating humor would always work really well in situations like that.
That's a good point. If you're just joining us, by the way, we're speaking with Terry Fator. A very Terry Christmas 2, the sequel, running through December. I've seen his show several times. He's incredible. Definitely check it out. Okay, Terry, so now let's move to your career when you get an opportunity to be on America's Got Talent, right? Season 2. I would imagine before that, before you had that opportunity, you were playing in smaller venues, I would assume, and you weren't obviously the household name that you are today. So you get that opportunity. Take me through that a little bit. You get that, and that's your big shot, right? That's your big shot to make it. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was 42 years old, and I had been doing this professionally since I was 20. And I started when I was 10, so I'd been doing it forever. And I got to tell you, I had so many things that in my head was the pinnacle, and man, this is it. I'm finally going to make it. I'm finally going to get the attention that I feel like that I've worked hard for, and had it come crashing down and gone down in a blaze of glory every single time. So I get on America's Got Talent. My attitude is, look, I'm not going to set myself up for another fall. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this, and at the very least, I can take my performances because I assumed I was going to, just like most of the other people. I mean, millions of people try out for this show. So what are my odds, really?
Right.
So I'm going, you know what? Somebody else is probably going to win it, but it's okay because I'll get on. I'll get some national exposure. I'll be able to take the best of my performances, put it into a nice little promo video, and then I can raise my price at elementary schools,
Yeah.
And that really was my goal. I had no intention of winning. I didn't know. Now I was prepared.
You sound like Donald Trump. Terry, you sound like Donald Trump. I don't think he had intentions of winning either. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think he did either. No one was more surprised when he won than me,
Sure.
and I think probably him too.
Right. You guys have something in common.
Mm-hmm. We certainly do.
Yeah. So, okay, so go ahead. Yep.
Suddenly, I win the show, and then kaboom, instantaneously, I'm not playing elementary schools anymore. I'm suddenly a headliner in Vegas within a month. I think it was maybe it was 2 months.
Your life changes.
I think I won on. It changed completely, and I started contacting the Hilton. Or I guess they reached out to me, and I booked that 2 months before It was about a month before I even won the show. It was incredible.
Wow. Okay.
And
That's
then the Mirage
unbelievable.
came out to see me at the Hilton and decided to sign me to a multi-year deal.
So your life completely changes after winning season 2 of America's Got Talent. And how did you handle your celebrityness? For example, I would imagine a lot of people start recognizing you in public. How do you handle something like that?
It's weird. I do get recognized, but my fans are incredibly respectful. I'm not sure why they're different. I don't get hounded a lot, but people do. They're very respectful of me and of my privacy. I usually will hear somebody whispering, or my wife will hear something. And, of course, as happens with many celebrities, my first marriage fell apart, and it really had nothing to do with fame. I honestly, we had all kinds of problems. I thought that getting rich and famous was going to fix the problems, and it only made them worse. So I get it now. When somebody makes it famous and divorces their, wife or husband, I'm like, hey, you have no idea what's going on. I honestly thought that getting rich and famous was going to make everything great, and that, my wife and I were going to get along, and it was 100 times worse after. And so it was like, look, it usually exacerbates the problems you already have. So I'm like, I should have divorced her before America's Got Talent, and I wouldn't have had to pay her so much.
Take me back though to when that's very funny. Take me back to you're right before America's Got Talent. If somebody went up to you and said, "Hey Terry, in just a few years, you're going to get a 5-year, $100 million contract with the Mirage," would you have believed it?
Of course not. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like, and what happens is, at least for me, I thought I was going to be aware that I was famous all the time, but oddly, I'm not. Oddly, I completely forget that I'm famous. And it's very strange until somebody says my name. I'm like, oh, that's right. A lot of times somebody will say, oh my gosh, Terry, and I'll think, do I know this person? And then I'll realize, oh no, wait, that's right. They probably saw me on TV, or they saw my billboards or something. And so it's very strange. It's very jarring for me. But I never, and I keep myself so busy working and writing and creating puppets and creating characters and creating more stuff. And the reason I do that is because I just want to make sure to keep the show fresh for myself and for my fans. People have seen me like 17 times and have never seen the same exact show, and I'm very proud of that. So I'm so busy working. I think I'll look back on my career one day and go, wow, that was fun. But right now, I'm working so hard that I don't really have time to sit there and go, wow, this is amazing. I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. Because creating and performing is the joy of my life.
Of course.
I'd rather be doing that than anything.
Of course. You have to be obsessed and be a hard worker to have the success that you have. Actually, on a side note, and by the way, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with Terry Fator. You and I were at the same show. This had to be about a couple of years ago. I believe it was Don Rickles, the late, great Don Rickles. This was at the Orleans. And you and I were at the same show, and in the middle of the show, and I'm just some idiot radio guy who does a show. You're obviously a little more popular than me. But Don Rickles, in the middle of his show, he says your name and he thanks you for being there, and then he said my name as well. And that's a moment for me personally that I will never forget. And the reason why I ask you that question is because I would imagine you've had a lot of celebrities and you've met a lot of famous people like yourself that have gone to your show that are fans of yours. Can you give us a story or somebody famous? Because for me, that Don Rickles thing was pretty cool for me, as I'm sure it was cool for you as well.
It still bowls me over. For example, Cindy Williams, who was in Laverne and Shirley.
Right.
I went to see her, and I was doing a promo thing, and Cindy Williams, I see her there, and I'm going, oh my gosh, it's Shirley from Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah.
And she comes up to me and she says, I have to tell you, Terry, me and Michael McKean and named off a couple of other people from Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley. And she says, we watched you every week and just loved you. And I'm like, whoa. And I think, though, the coolest thing, because I've been a Republican my entire life. I was raised that way. And so kind of like, I've got friends who are Democrats, raised Democrats. And so I went to a fundraiser for the Republican Party. Nancy Reagan was there.
Oh, wow.
And I went up to her, and they gave me an opportunity to meet her. And I said, Mrs. Reagan, I just want you to know it's an honor to meet you. I voted for your husband twice. and she said, "And I want you to know I voted for you." And I mean, what a surreal experience
That's
that
so
is.
amazing. So obviously, there are many Republicans and Democrats that look at Ronald Reagan and, of course, his wife and just nothing but class, right? But I just that's amazing, that story you just said, where you have somebody that you've looked up to your whole life and you voted for her husband, as you said, twice. What I mean, I just can't even imagine. Like, what goes through your head when she says she voted for you on America's Got Talent? That's incredible.
There's really no way to express it. It just kind of blows your mind. I went to see Andy Williams in Branson before he passed.
Right.
And he was having dinner, and they escorted me over to his table when I went to dinner at the same place he was at. And he said, and his wife was sitting next to him, and he said, "My wife and I laid in bed and watched you every single week and voted for you every single week." I mean, Andy freaking Williams,
Legend, yeah.
I mean, an
Legend.
icon.
Yeah.
And so, I've had this happen many, many times where it always boggles my mind when I think these people actually know who I am and watch. It's crazy.
That
It's
is
crazy.
that is incredible. That is incredible.
I never get used to it.
I love hearing those stories. Tell us a little bit about who makes your puppets. Who designs your puppets, because they're incredible.
Well, I get asked a lot what the best part of my success is. And I always say the best part of my success is that my creativity is no longer shackled by my lack of finances. And I have created so many different things. My brain works in a way that is different than most people. And I've created so many things that I had to put on the wayside and not do because I just could not afford to have it made. Now I get the best puppet makers in the world. A lot of my soft puppets, like Winston the Impersonating Turtle, Dougie Scott Walker the Stoner, Emma Taylor, the girl that sings It Last by Etta James, they were all made by the same people who make the Muppets. It's called Puppet Heap out of Hoboken. My wife tells me I always say it wrong. It's Hoboken, New Jersey. And so they make it. And then I have a guy named Chance Wolf that is just one of the best soft sculpture puppet makers. Hard figures where, you carve them out of wood and it's just incredible. Keith Lovick also makes my heart. Keith Lovick made my David Bowie and my Bing Crosby puppets.
So Terry, if I wanted a replica of the Donald Trump puppet that you use in your show by the same company, what would that cost me?
I don't think they're that expensive because he asked me after I hired him to make this one. And mine has a hair that flops up, and it's very, very funny. And, it's hilarious. It's really funny. But the guy, it's Steve Axtell, Axtell Expressions, and I believe it's AXTELL.com. And he called me, and he goes, "I'm getting a lot of people asking me for a Donald Trump puppet. Do you mind if I make another one?" And I said, "You go right ahead and do that. You can buy a Donald Trump." In fact, he just put out a presidential series, and they have Donald Trump, Obama, George W. Bush,
That's awesome.
Bill Clinton, all made by the same guy. And he is amazing. He makes my Donald Trump puppet, and he makes my Vicky the Cougar puppet.
How long does this take for him to make one of these?
It just totally depends on what. If obviously when I get them, I have an original. It can take up to 2 to 3 months. I have a guy that can make me one in a month to 6 weeks. He's the one that makes my more realism puppets. He made my Willie Nelson, which it's uncanny to see the Willie Nelson puppet that he made.
So
and Stevie Wonder, they look, and Frank Sinatra, they look like.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're incredible.
That's so cool.
And they're all in my Christmas show, by the way, that you can see them.
Which runs till December 30th. Yeah. So if I had your abilities, which clearly I don't, I would mess with people all the time because you're barely moving your mouth as what a great ventriloquist would do. Do you ever mess with people where you'll say something but your mouth isn't moving and then you'll just mess with people?
Well, of course I do. I mean, I'm a ventriloquist. It wouldn't be much of a ventriloquist. One of my favorite things to do is I absolutely love to when I'm if there's nobody behind me in line at security at the airport at TSA, I will put my suitcase on there, and I just had a guy tell me that I freaked him out the last time when I went through, and it's just as the suitcase is about to go through the X-ray, I go, "Let me out of here! Someone, let me out!" And they go crazy. So I love to do that. Another thing I love to do is when I'm doing a television show, like when I went to do Kathy Lee and Hoda, a couple of years ago. I got up and I was doing my sound check, and I was standing in front of the microphone, and I walked up to the mic, and as I'm standing there, I said, one, hello, would you turn off that echo? And they're like, "There's no echo," and I'm just like, I'm kidding, I'm a ventriloquist. And I love to do jokes like this. So I'm always playing jokes on people.
God, you could just do a reality show, just walking with Terry Fator, the day in the life of Terry Fator, just messing with
I'm
people.
telling you, one of the things I absolutely want to do, I want to put puppets in my car and drive in the HOV lane by myself and try to talk my way out of a ticket and have cameras in there. I just think that would be the funniest thing ever.
We need you to do that. We need a reality show. I'm telling you, Terry, it would be a smash hit. I want to plug your show again, and you'd be very kind with your time. We're joined by Terry Fator, of course, A Very Terry Christmas 2, the sequel. His show at the Mirage is running through December 30th. I've seen his show several times. It is fun for the whole family. It's clean, good, fun comedy. Terry, I cannot thank you enough for coming on, and thank you for clearing up that so-called Donald Trump controversy. We appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And he'll be back in the show once he's no longer president. I'm bringing him back, but you can see him on my socials. I've got Instagram, Twitter.
So will you see him in 2020 or 2024? That's the real question.
That's the question. Hopefully,
it's not a question at this point, Brian. He'll be back. We all know that. Hey, Terry.
Fair enough.
If we were to buy one of these dolls, would you sign it for us?
Of course.
All right, we got to do that.
Not only will I sign it, I'll come into the studio and I will actually do a routine and sign it. You can and
wow.
If you do that,
Terry, I cannot wait for that. I might hold you to that. Thank you so much for your time, Terry. You're one of the best in the business. We really appreciate it, and we hope to have you on again soon. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we
thanks
appreciate
a lot, Terry.
it. The great, the legend, the best ventriloquist on the planet, as far as I'm concerned, Terry Fator.
Well, I mean, if he's getting paid $100 million for 5 years,
he's pretty good.
He's got to be top two.
He's pretty good. All right, so we're going to hold him to that, by the way. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Tape.